In the frozen depths of Norse mythology, there exists a realm often misunderstood, a place of profound mystery and quiet solemnity, a place ruled by a figure neither good nor evil, but something far more complex. Her name is Hel. Tonight, we will journey into her entire story, from the very moment of her mysterious creation to the final chapters of her eternal reign. We will travel through the 9 realms. We will meet gods and giants. We will discover truths that have been told for over 1,000 years. You may have heard of Hel before. Perhaps you encountered her in stories, portrayed as a villain, a dark goddess bent on destruction and chaos. But tonight, that changes. Tonight, we uncover the truth. We strip away the misconceptions, the layers of misinterpretation, and we discover who Hel truly is. The Norse people did not fear Hel the way stories today suggest. To them, Hel was not a punishment. She was not a reward either. She was something far more fundamental, far more real. She was the embodiment of a truth that all living things must eventually face. So settle in. Make yourself comfortable. Close your eyes if you wish. Let the story of Hel carry you away to the 9 realms, where gods walk among mountains, where giants dwell in frozen lands, and where death itself has a face, a kingdom, and a story worth telling. This is the complete story of Hel, and it begins with a truth that may surprise you. Hel is not good, Hel is not evil. She is an inevitability given form. She is death itself made conscious, ruling over the realm where all who die must eventually go. Think about death itself. Is death good? Is death evil? No. Death simply is. It comes with the same inevitability for all. It does not discriminate. It does not judge. It simply fulfills its purpose in the endless cycle of existence. This is what Hel represents. She is not a torturer. She is not a savior. She is a law of nature bound by her own principles to act with perfect justice and perfect neutrality. Now let us see this truth proven through an ancient story. In Asgard, the home of the gods, there was a god named Balder. He was the most beautiful of all beings. His light seemed to shine from within him. Every creature loved him. One day, Balder had a dream of his own death. He shared this fear with his mother, Frigg. She decided to protect him. She traveled throughout all of creation and asked every single thing not to harm her son. Fire swore an oath. Water swore an oath. All metals, stone, earth, wood, every plant, even the beasts of the world, everything promised to protect Balder. When she finished, Balder was invulnerable. Nothing in creation could touch him. The gods gathered and tested this protection. They hurled weapons at him. They threw stones. They set fires at his feet. Nothing harmed him. Balder stood safe and untouched. But Frigg had missed one thing. A small plant, young and insignificant. The mistletoe. It was overlooked. Loki learned of this weakness. He fashioned the mistletoe into a dart and placed it in the hands of a blind god named Hoder. Hoder threw it. The dart struck Balder. He fell. He did not rise again. The most beautiful of all the gods was dead. The 9 worlds fell into mourning. Every god wept. Every creature wept. All of creation grieved. But the gods could not accept this loss. They sent Hermodr, a messenger, down to the realm of the dead. He rode for 9 nights through darkness. He crossed the river Gjol. He approached the gates of Niflheim, the frozen realm beneath the earth, and he entered the hall of Hel. There, sitting upon her throne, was Hel herself. Half of her face was beautiful and living. The other half was pale as death. She was neither young nor old, neither kind nor cruel. She simply was. Hermodr approached her and made his plea. "Great Hel, we beg you, Balder was beloved by all. Return him to us. Let him come back to the world of the living." Hel listened. She did not refuse. She did not accept either. Instead, she spoke with absolute clarity. Her words were measured, precise, without emotion. "If all things in the world, both living and dead, weep for Balder," she said, "then he shall be released. But if even one thing refuses to weep, then he shall remain with me." This was not cruelty. This was not a punishment designed to cause suffering. This was a law, a universal law. Hel was not making an exception for the gods. She was not offering them special treatment. She was stating a condition that was fair and absolute. Think about what Hel did here. She did not say no, she did not say yes. She created a standard that all of creation could understand. If everything loved Balder so much, then everything should weep for him. If everything wept, then his death would be unjust and she would release him. It was logic, it was fairness. It was a test of universal truth, not a punishment. Hermoda returned to Asgard and shared Hel's words. The gods sent messengers to every corner of the 9 worlds. They asked all things to weep for Balder, and everything did. The stones wept, the trees wept, the animals wept, the giants wept, even fire wept. All of creation mourned, but then in a dark cave, the messengers found an old giantess sitting alone. Her name was Thok. They asked her to weep for Balder. She refused. Her voice was like stone grinding against stone. Thok will weep dry tears for Balder's death. I received no good from him in life. Let Hel hold what she has. It was Loki in disguise. The one who caused Balder's death was also the one who prevented his return. And so Balder remained in Hel's realm. But here is what matters most. Hel did not punish Balder. She did not torture him. She did not discriminate against him because he was a god. She simply honored the law she had set. She maintained the order that governed her realm. She did not make exceptions. She did not show favoritism. She did not bend her principles even when the gods themselves begged her to. This is the profound truth about Hel. She is not vindictive. She is not cruel. She is incorruptible. She is bound by her own nature to act with perfect justice. And in that justice there is no room for favoritism. No room for mercy born of sentiment. No room for compromise. Hel does what she does not because she wants to, but because she must. She is the guardian of a law that cannot be broken, not even by gods, not even by the most beautiful being in all the 9 worlds. This is who Hel truly is. Not a villain, not a punisher, but an embodiment of an inescapable truth, a truth that applies equally to all, a truth that even the divine cannot escape. And this is only the beginning of her story. Chapter 2. The Origins. Now that we understand who Hel is, we must ask ourselves, how did she come to be? Where did this being, this force, this inevitability come from? To answer this, we must travel back further still. Back to a time before Hel ruled her realm. Back to a time when the 9 worlds were still young. Back to the moment of her creation. Hel was not born like other gods. She was not created in Asgard among the divine. She was born from chaos itself, born from giants and tricksters, born from the very forces that the gods feared most. Her father was Loki, the trickster, the shapeshifter, the god who could not be content with peace. Loki was not evil in the way we might imagine evil. He was change itself. He was the force that could not be stopped or controlled. He was inevitable, just like his daughter would one day be. Her mother was Angerboda, a giantess whose name meant anguish, anxiety, sorrow. She was a being of the frost giants, from the realm of Muspelheim where fire and ice meet. The union of Loki and Angerboda was not something the gods approved of. It was forbidden. It was dangerous. It was exactly the kind of thing Loki would do. From this union 3 children were born, 3 beings that the gods would come to fear. Each one represented a different kind of chaos, a different kind of inevitability. The first was Fenrir, a wolf of monstrous size, a being that would grow until it could devour the sun itself. Fenrir represented the chaos of nature, the wild forces that could not be tamed. The second was Jörmungandr, the world serpent, a creature so vast that it wrapped around the entire earth. Its tail touched its mouth. Jörmungandr represented the chaos of the depths, the unknowable forces that lay beneath the surface of all things. And the third was Hel. Unlike her brothers, Hel did not represent chaos in the way they did. She was not a force of destruction or wildness. She was something else entirely. She was inevitability. She was the certainty that all things must end. The gods looked upon these 3 children, and they trembled. They could see the future written in them. They could see that these beings would play a role in the destruction of all things, in the end of the 9 worlds, in what would come to be called Ragnarok. But the gods did not destroy them. They could have. They had the power. But they did not. Instead, they made a choice that reveals much about how the ancient Norse understood fate and destiny. The gods captured Fenrir. They bound him with magical chains. They threw him into a pit in the earth and sealed it. There he would wait, growing larger and larger until the day of Ragnarok when he would break free. They captured Jörmungandr. They threw him into the ocean so deep that no one could reach him. There he would grow until he was so massive that his body encircled the entire earth. There he would wait for Ragnarok. But Hel was different. She was not imprisoned. She was not bound. She was given a responsibility. Odin, the father of the gods, made a decision. He would not destroy Hel. He would not imprison her. Instead, he would give her a kingdom. Odin sent Hel down to Niflheim, the frozen realm beneath the earth, the realm of mist and shadow, and he gave her dominion over it. He gave her authority over all those who died of sickness or old age. He made her a ruler, a guardian, a keeper of order. This is a crucial moment in understanding Hel. She was not exiled as a punishment. She was not cast down because she was evil or unworthy. She was given a commission, a task, an essential role in the maintenance of all things. Odin recognized something that the other gods might have overlooked. He recognized that death needed a guardian. That mortality needed a ruler who could be trusted to maintain order, to keep the laws intact, to never waver in her duty. And so Hel accepted this responsibility. She did not rebel. She did not resist. She simply took up the task that was given to her. She descended into Niflheim and claimed her kingdom. There, in that frozen realm, she built her hall, a vast structure called Eljudnir. Some say the name means something like hunger or want, but it was not a place of torture. It was a place of order, a place where those who came to her were received with fairness and without prejudice. She gathered servants around her, beings that personified different kinds of suffering, sickness, decay, old age, but they were not there to torment. They were there to maintain the natural order, to ensure that those who came to Hel's realm understood that their time in the world of the living had come to an end. Hel herself stood at the threshold between life and death. Half of her body remained beautiful and living. The other half was skeletal and pale. She was neither fully alive nor fully dead. She existed in a state between worlds, and in that state she could judge all who came before her with perfect neutrality. She did not favor the beautiful over the ugly, the rich over the poor, the powerful over the weak. In her realm, all were equal, all faced the same truth, all understood that death makes no distinctions. This is why Odin chose her. Not because she was cruel, not because she was willing to torture or punish, but because she could be trusted to maintain perfect justice, perfect order, perfect neutrality. The other gods might have wavered. They might have shown mercy to those they loved. They might have made exceptions for the beautiful or the powerful. But Hel could not. She was bound by her own nature. She was made to be what she was. And so she descended into Niflheim, and she has remained there ever since, ruling her kingdom with unwavering commitment, never showing favoritism, never bending her principles, doing exactly what she was meant to do. This is the origin of Hel, not born from evil, not created as a punishment, but brought into being as a necessity, a being designed to fulfill an essential role, a being designed to be absolutely reliable, absolutely fair, absolutely unchanging. And in understanding this origin, we begin to see her not as a villain or a demon, but as a being who was given a profound responsibility, a being who accepted that responsibility without complaint, a being who has honored it perfectly for all the ages of the world. Chapter 3. The Realm of Helheim. Now we know where Hel came from. Now we understand how she came to rule. But we have not yet truly seen her kingdom. We have not yet walked through the halls of Helheim and understood what it truly is. Many imagine Helheim as a place of suffering, a dark prison where souls are tormented and broken. But this understanding comes from outside influences. from other cultures and other beliefs. The truth is far different. Helheim is real. It exists in the mythology of the Norse. It is a place as substantial as Asgard or Midgard, but it is not what people imagine it to be. To understand Helheim, we must first understand who goes there. Not everyone who dies goes to Helheim. This is an important distinction. The Norse believed that the manner of death determined where a soul would go. Those who died in battle, those who fell with weapons in their hands, those who died fighting, they went to Valhalla. There they would feast and fight endlessly in preparation for Ragnarok. They would stand with the gods in the final battle. But the vast majority of people did not die in battle. They died of sickness. They died of old age. They died of accident. They died of natural causes. And for all of them there was Helheim. Think about what this means. In the Norse understanding, Hel received far more souls than any other realm. She was not ruling over the cursed or the damned. She was ruling over the vast majority of humanity. The farmers, the merchants, the craftspeople, the mothers and fathers, the children, all those who lived ordinary lives and died ordinary deaths. This is crucial to understanding Hel. She was democratic in a way that few gods were. She did not discriminate based on status or virtue. She did not reward warriors while punishing common people. She received everyone equally. Now, what was Helheim like? What did those who went there experience? The halls of Helheim were ruled from a great structure called Eldjudnir. Within these halls, there was order, there was structure, there was a kind of peace. Those who came to Hel's realm were received. They were given shelter. They were given a place to exist. They were not tortured. They were not in agony, but neither were they in joy. They existed in a state between, a state of acknowledgement, a state of acceptance. Hel herself sat upon her throne, half living, half dead, watching over all who came to her. She did not punish the wicked or reward the virtuous. She simply received all equally. She treated all with the same fairness, the same neutrality, the same acceptance of their fate. Around her moved servants, beings that embodied different aspects of death and decay. Not demons, not torturers, but personifications of natural processes, sickness, old age, hunger. These were not there to cause suffering. They were there to remind all who dwelt in Helheim that the time of life had passed, that they had moved into a new state of being. There was also Garmr, the Hound of Hel, a creature with a chest stained with blood. He guarded the gates of Helheim. He ensured that those who came could not leave without permission, but he did not attack unprovoked. He did not torture or torment. He simply guarded. He maintained the boundary between the living and the dead. The realm itself was cold. It was dark. It was far from the warmth and light of the world of the living. But it was not chaotic. It was not hostile. It was organized. It was ordered. It was governed by laws that were clear and unchanging. Those who dwelt in Helheim understood their place. They understood that they had come to the end of their journey in the world of the living. They understood that Hel ruled fairly and would receive them without judgment based on their worth or their virtue. And here is something that many do not understand about Hel's realm. It was not forever, at least not in the absolute sense that some might imagine. The Norse believed in Ragnarok, the end of all things. When that day came, all would be transformed. The dead would rise, the worlds would be destroyed and reborn, and even Helheim would change. But until that day came, Hel's realm was stable. It was dependable. It was a place where those who died could go and know that they would be treated fairly, that they would not be punished for being ordinary, that they would not be tortured for failing to die in battle or achieve great deeds. This is why Hel was not feared in the way that we might fear a demon or a dark force. She was respected. She was accepted as a necessity. She was understood to be fair and just in her dealings. The Norse understood something that many modern cultures have forgotten. They understood that death was not inherently evil, that mortality was not a punishment, that the end of life was not something to be feared or hated. It was simply part of the cycle, part of the natural order of things. And Hel, as the guardian of this cycle, was not something to hate. She was something to respect, something to understand, something to accept as an inevitable part of existence. When a Norse person died and went to Helheim, they were not entering a place of torment. They were entering a place of order, a place where their life would be acknowledged, where they would be treated fairly, where they would exist in a state of peaceful resignation to their fate. This is the kingdom of Hel, not a dungeon, not a torture chamber, but a realm, a real place, a necessary place, a place where death itself is personified and given form, where the end of life is honored and respected. And in that realm, Hel sits upon her throne, neither good nor evil, neither merciful nor cruel, simply present, simply maintaining order, simply doing what she must do. This is what it means to be Hel, to rule a kingdom not through fear or punishment, but through the simple acknowledgement of an inescapable truth, that all things end, that all must eventually come to her realm, and that when they do, they will be received fairly and without prejudice. Chapter 4. The Law of Hel. We have now seen who Hel is. We have walked through her realm. We have understood the kingdom she rules. But there is something deeper we must explore, something that truly defines her nature. It is the law that governs Hel's realm, the law that she enforces with absolute precision, the law that even the gods cannot break. In the story of Balder, we glimpsed this law. But now we must understand it more fully. We must see how it shapes everything Hel does, how it defines her character, how it reveals her true nature. The law of Hel is simple, it is ancient, it is unchanging, and it is this: death comes to all. And once you are in Hel's realm, you belong to her, unless an exception is made by universal consent. This law is not arbitrary, it is not personal, it is not born from Hel's desires or preferences. It is woven into the very fabric of existence itself. It is a fundamental principle of the cosmos. When Balder died, the gods did not understand this law. They thought they could negotiate with Hel as they might negotiate with another god. They thought they could appeal to her compassion or her sense of fairness. They thought they could convince her to make an exception. But Hel did not make exceptions. She could not. Not because she was cruel, but because to make an exception would be to undermine the very law that allowed her to rule at all. Think about what would happen if Hel could be convinced to break her own law. If she could be persuaded to release whoever the gods asked, then her realm would become chaos. The law of death would become meaningless. The boundary between life and death would dissolve. And so Hel maintained the law. She did not break it, not even for Balder, not even when all the gods begged her, not even when every creature in the 9 worlds wept for his return. But here is what is important to understand. Hel did not refuse out of spite or anger. She refused because she recognized that the law was more important than any individual case, more important than even the gods themselves. She offered a condition that was, by any measure, fair. She said that if all things wept for Balder, then he would be released. She was not saying no absolutely. She was saying that the law could be suspended only if there was universal agreement that his death was unjust. This is not cruelty. This is governance. This is the maintenance of order in a realm that could so easily descend into chaos. The conditions seemed impossible to fail. Surely all things would weep for the most beautiful of the gods. Surely the entire creation would mourn him. Surely one condition could not be so difficult to meet. But it was. And in that failure, we see the truth of Hel's nature revealed. Loki, the trickster, refused to weep. Or rather, he disguised himself and refused to weep. And in that refusal, the law remained unbroken. The condition was not met, and Balder remained in Hel's realm. Now, some might say that Hel should have looked beyond the letter of the law. She should have known that it was Loki who refused. She should have made an exception anyway. But Hel did not do this. She honored the law she had set. She maintained the order of her realm. She did not bend her principles, even when faced with the grief of all the gods. This is what it means to be truly just. It is not about being kind or merciful in individual cases. It is about maintaining a system of law that applies equally to all. It is about refusing to make exceptions, even when the consequences are painful. And this is why Hel is neither good nor evil. She does not act out of compassion or cruelty. She acts out of a commitment to law and order. She acts because the maintenance of her realm requires it. There is something almost noble in this. There is something deeply respectable about a being who refuses to compromise her principles, who will not bend even when faced with the tears of gods, who will not make exceptions even for the most beautiful creatures in creation. This is not the behavior of a villain. This is the behavior of someone who understands that personal feelings must sometimes yield to larger principles. That individual cases, however sympathetic, cannot be allowed to undermine the system that keeps everything in order. In the modern world, we often see justice as something personal. We think of mercy as always being good. We believe that rules should be bent in special cases. We value compassion over consistency, but the Norse understood something different. They understood that there was a kind of justice that transcended personal feelings, a kind of justice that required consistency, a kind of justice that was cold and impartial and never wavering, and they embodied this understanding in the figure of Hel, a being who was not motivated by emotion or desire, a being who simply honored the law that governed her realm, a being who could look at the grief of all creation and say, "No, the law stands, the condition was not met, the dead remain with me." This is the true nature of Hel's law. It is not punishment, it is not revenge, it is the maintenance of fundamental order. It is the assertion that some things cannot be bent or broken, even in the face of the most powerful forces in the universe. And this is why Hel is powerful. Not because she is strong or fierce or terrifying, but because she is absolutely reliable, absolutely consistent, absolutely bound by her own principles. The gods could defeat her if they chose. They are more powerful than she is in terms of raw strength, but they cannot defeat her law. They cannot break the order that she maintains. And in that inability lies her true power. She is powerful because she is inevitable. She is powerful because she is unchanging. She is powerful because nothing in the 9 worlds can convince her to compromise her principles. This is the law of Hel, and this is why she is worthy of respect. Not because she is good, not because she is evil, but because she is just in the deepest and most fundamental sense. She does what she does not because she wants to, but because she must. And in that necessity lies the entire meaning of her existence. Chapter 5. The Final Reckoning. We have journeyed through the story of Hel. We have seen her origins. We have walked through her realm. We have understood her law. But there is one more chapter to her story. One that reaches beyond the present moment. One that stretches into the future, into the day when all things end. The Norse believed in a prophecy, a time called Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, the end of the 9 worlds, a day when fire would consume the earth, when the stars would fall from the sky, when the very foundations of creation would crack and crumble. On that day everything would change, and Hel would play a role in it. In the prophecies, it is said that the bonds holding the great wolves and serpents would break. Fenrir, Hel's brother, would break free from his chains. Jormungandr, the world serpent, would rise from the ocean. And in that moment of chaos, even Hel's realm would be transformed. But what of Hel herself? What happens to the ruler of the dead when all things end? The prophecies speak of a ship made from the fingernails of the dead, a ship called Naglfar. This ship would sail from Hel's realm, and upon it would sail all those who had dwelt in her kingdom. So even in the end of all things, Hel's role continues. She is not destroyed. She is not defeated. She simply transitions. She moves from being the guardian of death to being the herald of transformation. Some scholars interpret this as Hel betraying the gods. They say that she follows Loki and the forces of chaos. But this is a misunderstanding. Hel is not following anyone. She is simply doing what she must do. Hel does not choose which side to fight for because she is not fighting for a side. She is fulfilling her nature. She is the force of death, and death cannot be stopped or redirected. It can only be acknowledged and accepted. When Ragnarok comes, Hel does not rebel against it. She does not try to prevent it. She does not make alliances to save her realm. She simply accepts that this too is part of the cycle. This too is inevitable. And in that acceptance, we see the deepest truth about her nature. She is not good or evil. She is not for the gods or against them. She is simply the embodiment of an inescapable truth, that all things end, that nothing lasts forever, that even the 9 worlds and the gods themselves must one day pass away. This is why hell is neither good nor evil. She cannot be. Because good and evil are human concepts. They exist within the framework of morality and choice, but hell exists beyond that framework. She is beyond morality. She is a force of nature, an inevitability given form, and in Ragnarok this becomes clear. She does not fight to save herself because she cannot be destroyed. She does not make deals or bargains because she answers to no one. She simply exists, and she will continue to exist in whatever form she must take. After Ragnarok, after the 9 worlds are destroyed and reborn, what will happen to Hel? The prophecies do not say. Perhaps she will rule a new realm. Perhaps she will take a new form. Perhaps she will simply cease to be in the way that we understand existence. But this does not matter. What matters is that Hel will remain true to her nature. Whatever that nature requires of her in the new world, she will do it. Without hesitation. Without compromise, without doubt. This is the final chapter of Hel's story. Not an ending, but a transformation. Not a defeat, but an acceptance. A recognition that even she, a goddess, is subject to the larger forces that govern the universe. And in that acceptance lies a profound wisdom. The wisdom that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is accept what we cannot change. That sometimes the truest form of strength is not resistance, but acceptance. Not fighting against fate, but acknowledging it. Not denying the inevitable, but embracing it. This is Hel's ultimate lesson. This is what her entire existence teaches us. That there are forces in the universe larger than ourselves. That there are laws that cannot be broken. That there is a wisdom in accepting what must be, rather than fighting against it. And this is why, even in her final chapter, even as the world burns and the gods fall, Hel remains what she has always been. Neither good nor evil, simply inevitable. Chapter 6. The Souls of Helheim. Now we must ask a question that we have not yet fully explored. Who are the souls that dwell in Hel's realm? Who are the countless beings that come to her day after day, year after year, through all the ages of the world? They are not the wicked or the damned. This is a crucial distinction. Helheim is not a place of punishment for those deemed unworthy. It is not a place where evil souls go to suffer for their transgressions. Instead, Helheim is simply where most people go when they die. The farmers who tended their fields, the mothers who raised their children, the craftspeople who built and created, the merchants and traders, the poets and storytellers, all those who lived ordinary lives and died ordinary deaths. There were no trials in Hel's realm, no judgment of the soul, no weighing of deeds against some cosmic standard. There was simply reception, simple acknowledgement. Hel received all equally. A king who died of old age went to Helheim. A peasant who died of sickness went to Helheim. A child who died too young went to Helheim. None of them were treated differently. None of them were judged based on their status or their worth in the living world. This was the profound democracy of Hel's realm. It was a place where all were equal before the law of death, where no one received special treatment, where no one could bargain or negotiate or claim that they deserved better. In a world where hierarchy was absolute, where rank and status determined everything, this realm of absolute equality must have been strange and unsettling. But it was also fair. It was also just. The souls in Hel's realm did not suffer endless torment, but neither did they experience joy. They existed in a state between, a state of peaceful resignation. They understood that their time in the world of the living had ended. They understood that they now belonged to Hel. Some accounts speak of these souls gathering in the great halls of Eljudnir, gathering to watch the living world above, watching their descendants continue on, watching the seasons turn, watching time pass. They were not imprisoned in the way that we might think of imprisonment. They could not leave, but they were not confined to cells or chains. They existed in a realm that was theirs, a realm governed by laws they understood and accepted, and in that realm, Hel walked among them, neither as a tyrant nor as a savior, but as a guardian, as one who maintained order, as one who ensured that each soul understood its place in the cycle of existence. This is who dwells in Helheim, the vast majority of humanity, the ordinary and the extraordinary alike, all equal before the law of death, all receiving the same fair treatment, all understanding that they belong now to Hel and to her realm. And this, perhaps, is the greatest lesson of Hel's kingdom, that in death all distinctions fade, that wealth and power and beauty mean nothing, that all are received with the same fairness, that all are treated with the same neutrality. This is the true nature of Helheim, not a place of punishment, but a place of truth, a place where the illusions of the living world fall away, where all are seen clearly and judged fairly, where Hel, neither good nor evil, simply does what she must do. Chapter 7. The Silence of Acceptance. Throughout this journey we have learned the story of Hel. We have seen her birth. We have walked through her realm. We have understood her law. But now we must ask ourselves, what does Hel teach us? What wisdom can we draw from a being who is neither good nor evil, from a force that simply is, unchanging and inevitable? In the modern world, we live with a contradiction. We understand intellectually that death is inevitable, and yet we spend our lives denying it. We build monuments to permanence. We cling to the illusion that we can escape what must come. Hel teaches us something different. She teaches us that there is a wisdom in acceptance, not a passive resignation born of despair, but an active acknowledgement of reality. Hel does not rail against her role. She does not wish she were something other than what she is. She simply accepts her nature and acts in accordance with it. And in that acceptance lies a kind of peace. The Norse understood this. They did not fear death in the way that many modern cultures do. They understood it as part of the cycle, part of the natural order. They prepared for it, they accepted it, and in that acceptance they found freedom. Hel teaches us that some things cannot be changed, some laws cannot be bent, some forces cannot be resisted. And in recognizing this, we can stop wasting our energy fighting against the inevitable. This does not mean giving up. It does not mean ceasing to live fully. It means accepting the boundaries within which we live. It means understanding that we are not in control of everything, and finding peace in that understanding. Hel also teaches us about justice, about a kind of justice that is cold and impartial. That does not bend to emotion or pleading. That applies equally to all. In a world where justice is so often corrupted by power and preference, Hel's justice stands as an ideal, perfect, unchanging, fair. She teaches us that true strength is not about being fierce or powerful in a conventional sense. It is about being consistent, about honoring your principles even when it costs you, about maintaining order when chaos would be easier. Most importantly, Hel teaches us about humility, about recognizing that we are small, that we are subject to forces larger than ourselves, that death will come for all of us, regardless of our status or our achievements. And in that recognition lies the beginning of wisdom. Chapter 8. The Eternal Throne. And so we come to the end of our journey. We have traveled from the golden halls of Asgard to the frozen depths of Niflheim. We have learned the story of Hel from her birth to her eternal reign. We have understood her nature. We have glimpsed her realm. We have learned her lessons, but the story does not end. It continues. Even now, in this moment, Hel sits upon her throne, half living, half dead, watching over all who dwell in her realm, maintaining order, honoring her law, doing what she has always done. Somewhere someone is dying, someone is taking their final breath. And Hel is there, not as a punisher, not as a tormentor, but as a guardian, as a receiver, as one who honors the passage from life to death with perfect fairness and perfect neutrality. She does not judge them for what they did in life. She does not weigh their deeds or their worth. She simply receives them, and in receiving them, she affirms a fundamental truth, that all who live must one day die, that all are equal before the law of death, that none can escape what must come. This is Hel, neither good nor evil, neither merciful nor cruel, simply inevitable, simply necessary, simply true. In understanding her, we understand something about ourselves. We understand that we too will one day stand before her, that we too will be received into her realm, that we too are subject to the law that she embodies. And in that understanding, there is a strange kind of peace, a peace born not from denial but from acceptance, from recognition, from the simple acknowledgement of what is true. The story of Hel is the story of death itself, and death, while it comes for all of us, is not something to fear. It is something to accept, something to understand, something to honor as a necessary part of the cycle of existence. And so, as you drift towards sleep, as the day falls away, remember Hel. Remember that she sits in her frozen realm, maintaining order, honoring law, doing what she must do. Remember that in her way, she is just. Remember that in her way, she is necessary. Remember that in her way, she is worthy of respect. This is the complete story of Hel, the goddess who is neither good nor evil, the ruler of Helheim, the guardian of death itself, the one who will receive us all when our time comes, and she will do so with perfect justice, perfect fairness, perfect acceptance. Sleep well, for when death comes you will be received fairly. You will be treated with the same neutrality that Hel extends to all. You will be acknowledged. You will be at peace. This is the promise of Hel.